Hi, hello, my name's Devaraj. Welcome back to this series on bioenergetics on YouTube. Something I get asked a lot about in the comments section, and I'm very appreciative for all your comments, is shaking. And by that I mean spontaneous bodily shaking that occurs when you're doing bioenergetic exercises. And mostly what people want to know really is, one, is it okay? And two, how can I get it? So we're going to cover some of that stuff in this episode. And just to give you a little bit of context, for example, in traditional Hindu belief systems, there's a thing called Kundalini, which has been around, in the Vedas and this kind of ancient Sanskrit texts and stuff, and came into the West when a guy, I think he was like some major in the army, who'd been out in India, probably, part of the occupation when we were kind of running their country for them, until Gandhi, wisely took it back. Essentially, this guy called himself Arthur Avalon, and he wrote a book called The Serpent Power. And this is all about chakras and Kundalini and this kind of thing. And my understanding of Kundalini from this is not so much in a big spiritual domain, it's not so much my thing. But once you get this kind of spontaneous energy in the body, it starts to free you from unnatural influences that have impinged upon you in your life. Societal conditioning, trying to fit into society in an unnatural way. Parental stuff that's gone on, traumatic incidents that have happened in your childhood where you've kind of contracted to not feel it. That's what you had to do at the time. And but this energy, this Kundalini, is something that comes to start to shake all of that out. And you see this natural shaking in many animals, Sometimes when they've been through shock, you see a dog or a lion or something like that, you see it shake, it literally starts to shake. To get the effect of a traumatic incident that's on the body, to get it out. So this shaking's a healthy thing. Also, moving a little bit even further east, in Indonesia, there's a religion called Subud religion. And they have a thing called latihan, which roughly means, in Indonesian, it roughly means training, like going to the gym stuff, but it also has a little bit esoteric meaning, and that is to do with shaking, basically spontaneous bodily shaking. Subud religion. There's also a guy in Bali, which is part of the Hindu part of Indonesia, called Ratu Bagus. I used to go and visit him back in the sort of mid-noughties, and he has an ashram near a big volcano, and they're all doing shaking. You have to shake for like 9 hours a day and stuff like that to music. And there's a lot of purging, and he works with tobacco as well. That's a little bit of context. Shaking basically is a healthy thing, as I see it. This spontaneous shaking, when it starts to take you over, it's fundamentally healthy. It can be accompanied by fear, because it's a new experience, and so the mind thinks, bloody hell, what's going on here? Why is my body suddenly starting to shake? And I want to have control over it. And also it can be that the shaking is actually, in some ways, it's opening up a center inside of you where there is fear. So it's natural to experience a bit of fear when you start to get some spontaneous shaking coming on. It's just normal, basically. It's normal to feel a bit afraid. But the thing to do is just to breathe and get into it. I think it's like a kind of spontaneous muscular release that happens. Basically, I'm not so into the Kundalini or complex spiritual theories. It's more like a kind of spontaneous muscular release. And it is healthy. And also, if you're not getting it and your mind's busy, why aren't I getting it? And those guys over there are getting it. Try not to be too busy with it. Because it may be that your body's not needing that spontaneous muscular release right now. And, you might be fine where you're at. We're all on a developmental journey, and it looks different for each of us. And all this kind of, the competition stuff that can go on in the group room, or looking at your peers and what's going on with them, it can spur you forward sometimes, that male competitive side. But also you need to learn to relax with where you're at. That's important. So what have we said? I think we've covered a bit about shaking and stuff. Let's look a little bit at a couple of exercises that can be done to help to allow this shaking to happen. And I think the best exercise that you can do, any exercise where you take your balance to the edge in a safe way, can be used to start to induce shaking, or to look to see if shaking wants to come. When you're right on the edge of your comfort zone, on the edge of your balance. And the bow and the arch is the most basic exercise in bioenergetics. And in this exercise, maybe you have it as a daily practice, which is super great. you can start to try and induce a bit of shaking. So let's see how that looks. I'm going to stand back. And if you remember, the arch position is when you're going to lean forwards slowly and just have your fingertips about 6 inches or about 15 centimeters from the floor. Wiggle your head and your arms to check you're relaxed. Now, when you're doing this position, if you want to try and induce a bit of shaking, what you can do is start to really straighten your legs and lift your heels like a millimeter off the floor. And see, when you're right on the edge of your balance, if some kind of shaking comes into your body. And if it does, just try and breathe and allow that. Looks a bit like this. So I'm straightening my legs and I'm taking my heels about a millimeter off the floor, and kind of shaking starts to happen right as I get on the edge there. I even find my right leg's kind of wandering back and I'm twisting out. The thing to do is to really breathe with it. I could have breathed a little bit more with that one, frankly. When I feel myself coming up, I can feel that. And the other side of it is the bow position, when you make your body like an archer's bow, basically. And in this position, you know, you bring it. It's got 4 parts to this position. You're gonna have your arms up, stretched up towards the ceiling, fingers splayed out, your pelvis forwards, and your arms also back behind your ears, so you're stretching back to make this bow shape. And if you've got all of that, then you stick your chest out too, to open the chest. And in this position too, when you really take yourself right on the edge of your balance zone, you may find a natural kind of shake wanting to come into you. Trick is to breathe through the mouth and try and just, my mind is very controlling and it wants to keep it under control. But with my out breath, I can try and let that go and let myself be a bit taken over, trying not to fall over backwards. Okay, so that gives you a bit of an idea, hopefully, of a couple of ways that you can try and induce this bodily shaking. The basic idea is that you need to take yourself edge of a comfort zone and also edge of your balance. You know, you can try it with other of the bioenergetic exercises that you do standing up and see if something happens. I'll soon be doing a bioenergetic workout on pelvic release as well, and that also can start to really induce, from a different way of working at it, a lot of bodily shaking. So that's coming up soon. Okay. That was quite shaky. Thank you for tuning in, and hope to see you back soon for Bioenergetics. Keep working at it. You know, if you've been getting involved in bio, stick with it and keep going. You know, you can do it. You can do it. Okay. That's enough from me for today.